So, PoE, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. We had some real clown shit going on in this game. Oh my god. I cannot believe how ridiculous this situation has been. I cannot believe this.
Oh boy, all right. So Path of Exile 2,
Yeah.
the reviews are in. Good news is they're looking quite positive with early impressions confirming our suspicion that this could be the best ARPG of all time. Bad news though is that not everyone's happy review codes even exist, let alone that there are people out there already playing
People
through
are mad about review. Who the fuck gets mad about review codes?
Entire game. So
I know what it is. They probably think that they can that they're playing the game early on the same server, so they're going to have like an economic advantage. No, they're completely separate servers.
Talk about it. Earlier today, the first Path of Exile 2 review was released.
People might not know that.
From YouTuber Fextralife. In the 15-minute video, he said quite a few interesting things about the game. Here are some of the highlights. He refers to PoE 2 as the, quote, Dark Souls of ARPG.
He's right. It's a meme, but he is in fact right.
We're never escaping this, right?
Yes.
Dark Souls will be with us forever. Now,
That's
mainly
right.
here, he was referring to the fact that the game is quite challenging.
No, you can. The reason why it's like Dark Souls is because you can roll in the game. If a game has rolling, it's a Souls-like.
No difficulty options to pick from, and even playing through the campaign as it was.
Yeah, you thought Diablo was a Diablo-like? It's actually a Souls-like.
There that he found quite rewarding to overcome, and that the game gave him a similar feeling in terms of its difficulty to the likes of Dark Souls or Elden Ring. He said that the
I do really like. I've decided that I am not going to pick my class. On the release of PoE 2, I am going to allow chat to decide whether I start with a witch or the wall. I'm going to let you guys decide because I can't trust myself to make the decision. Minion Cuck? Well, no, you guys can decide. Are you sure? I am, because I'm going to play both of them. And also, I want to say that I'm going to fill out the paperwork for getting partnered tonight, so I can hopefully get the 2 pet thing for like in the Twitch drops and everything for the release of PoE 2. You said that last night? Yeah, I said I'd do it either tonight or tomorrow, but I'm going to do it tonight. Last night, I had like a meeting with my moderators. This is actually... I'll talk about that later. Anyway, yes. I'm going to play one or the other.
Are large, estimating it takes a full hour to go from side to side. That sounds crazy, but we'll see. He also mentions that there was just a great sense of discovery while playing, to be it discovering new lore, unlocking new mechanics, finding new enemies and areas, etc. Now, one quote that I absolutely loved
This is one thing that I really hope that they have in the campaign. One thing I really love about games is when they have a really hard boss that you're supposed to go back to and fight, but if you're a very skilled player, you can beat them early. Genichiro, even though it's like not really like that in Sekiro. Then you also have things like, I think the best example is Tree Sentinel in Elden Ring.
That with the amount and variety of content, that it feels like 3 games rolled into one. Love to see it. The campaign, he estimates, was about 35 to 40 hours. But
Asmongold, Elden Ring
there's
gameplay.
Of course loads of endgame. And he mentioned feeling like he just scratched the tiniest surface of what's on offer after spending 40 hours with it. Potentially saying that this could be the all-time king of the genre. He also mentioned that it feels like there are limitless combinations of builds, that respecking is much easier than it has been in the past. He thought the dark theme and overall art direction was outstanding and clearly inspired by Diablo 2. He felt it was the most dynamic.
I'm actually curious, like, and this is kind of an open question, and I was looking at that path of the build path. Do you guys think that you should be able to import like a code that should allow you to like copy somebody's build if the person provides it? Because I feel like maybe that'd be good to get more casual players into the game. You can't do that? Yeah, that'd be neat. Yeah, maybe I should maybe send that to them. Yeah, because like I think that could be one of the things that can bridge the gap between like hardcore players and casual players. Because like the biggest challenge that I think PoE 2 has is how to keep Elon Musk playing the game when he's really busy. Or how to keep, anybody who has like a bunch of kids and a wife and a family, right? How can I keep them engaged? That's the real challenge. Like, obviously, like for us, like elite gamer wizards that were, you know, unemployed or maybe playing video games at work all day, it's not going to be a big deal, right? We're going to love this game. But like getting that casual audience, man. And like you're seeing, like, for example, like Monster Hunter and Elden Ring did the same thing. Like Wilds is doing the same thing, and Elden Ring did the same thing to like grow the audience of the game by like a 3x. And I think PoE 2 should do that. People just copy a guide, let others play or make a template build to really help casuals. Yeah, I actually might send that to GGG.
Combat in any ARPG he's ever played, and Fextralife has played quite a few. He also talked about things like the details on the skill effects.
You know what's actually crazy is that I probably won't even have to tell them, because I've had people from GGG message me because they watched my videos talking about the game. They probably might have already seen this by the time I message them. Yeah. Like, they pay a lot of close attention to feedback. Like, genuine, real feedback.
Designs being some of the best he's seen in the industry. He was blown away by the amount of detail. He did play on controller for a bit and said that it feels like the game was designed for controller first. Interesting, saying that it plays even better than Diablo 4 did on a controller. Now, there were some negatives mentioned, including the fact that he saw a few bugs and got crashes during the review process, and also that maps felt a little empty in terms of the amount and frequency of events. Now, that said, he wrapped it all up by saying that he strongly believes PoE 2 will cement the studio as one of the all-time greats among the likes of FromSoft or Larian. Now, I would argue that GGG is already there just with PoE 1, but that's...
I think they are, and it's just that, like, Larian had such a breakout success with Baldur's Gate 3. It's going to be really hard. I don't think PoE can meet that success because in a weird, ironic way, I actually think turn-based makes the game way more accessible. But I think that they can be like one of those studios, because like it's like a studio is like, it's like one game, right? They're making one game, but this is I think it will be transcendent.
Besides the point. And you know what? All of this sounds great to me. I am so happy to hear that the game is turning out nicely. So what exactly is the problem then? Well, there's two main things happening here.
The people are the problem.
One is that the review was posted way prior to embargo, apparently nearly a week before it was supposed to come out. And number two is that everyone was under the impression that there would be no early access prior to the early access public.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Sometimes video game communities are so stupid. Of course they give review copies to, like, Force. How the fuck do you think Force was able to release a guide or a video? I played Avowed, these are my reviews. Because you got a fucking review copy. That's what you do. And it's for your best interest. Review copies are not there to help, like, oh yeah, we just want to give the reviewers the ability to play the game because they're better than you. No. The review copies are there to serve a purpose to you, the customer, to better inform you on how to make a purchasing decision with your money. You want them to do that because, like, what if the game, like, not this one, but what if it's Veilguard, right? Or something like that, and the game isn't that good? Don't you want reviewers to get those copies ahead of time so they can say, hey, don't spend your $60. It's not ready yet. Of course you have that. It's so delusional. Review copies for early access? No, it's a separate server. So like you're playing on an internal testing build that, like, I've done this before. I know this. Like you're playing with other people that are like employees of GGG, like friends and family. Like it's not connected to the actual game. It gets reset.
Launch that there would be no early
it's like
review
a separate
copies
PTR.
of Path of Exile
it's a dev
2
server,
prior to that December 6th release. Those weren't supposed to happen as far as everyone was concerned. So what exactly is going on here? Well, I will tell you right after this.
It's a media copy.
Today's video is sponsored by Light of Monorum.
Oh, fuck you. Fuck you, Force. I have a video. I want to get paid for this. I have a video about this fucking game. Where is it? It has 994,000. It's going to hit 1 million views. I didn't get any fucking... they didn't pay me for this shit. And they're already paying him? How did this happen? This is such bullshit. Light of Mortarum with Monster Hunter vibe already looks better than Horizon Zero Dawn. See? Look,
is an open world survival.
Yeah, they risk making a lot of money because everybody's gonna actually watch the fucking video. I make a whole video about it. It's got fuck, man.
Crafting game with action combat, all set in a world reclaimed by nature.
The only risk they're going to have is their servers crashing.
Beast. Players will explore a variety of landscapes, uncovering ancient secrets and forging bonds with powerful mech animals.
I should stop playing video games.
Some key features include a fully seamless open world where you'll traverse grasslands, deserts, forest, and mountains. There's a variety of weapons you'll use and action-packed combat versus a wide range of mechanical foes. You've got all the basics with light and heavy attacks, dodging, blocking, counters. And
maybe they were unhappy because I said that every single attack that the bosses did was copied directly from Elden Ring. I'm right, by the way.
Special abilities. Fighting alongside you are the mech animals, over 100 to collect, each with unique designs and roles they fulfill, aiding you in battle. There's the survival crafting mechanics and unpredictable weather you'll have to protect against, and co-op gameplay as you can group with other players anytime hunting beasts, gathering resources, or building bases together. If you'd like to learn more, you can wishlist and check out Light of Moderum yourself using the link in the video description below. All right, so let's get into the major issues around everything that's been going on over the past 24 hours. So the first big thing is that it appears like Fextra Life posted their review, let's call it a tad early. At the time it went live, it was the only one out there, which had everyone speculating.
Well, they broke the embargo and they posted the review early. They made a mistake, but it turns out that they didn't make the mistake. PoE said they made the mistake.
The only outlet who got review codes? Now, no, as it turns out, they just posted far prior to the actual embargo. Now, after not too long, Fextra Life did take their video down. It was self-removed, and as of this recording, it is no longer available for viewing. You cannot go check the review yourself. Now, everyone was quick to blame them for breaking embargo because, of course, right, this is not a good thing.
And also, Fextra Life has a bad reputation, especially among streamers because of the way that they did embedding. So, like, they're, like, prime, like, it's people are ready, bro. They've already got 5 stacks of Sunder armor on them. People are ready to attack.
And be doing it. But apparently the fault lies with the developer, Grinding Gear Games. They said themselves on Twitter. Unfortunately, there was a miscommunication with Fextra Life that resulted in a video being posted early. This was a mistake on our end and is in no way on Fextra Life. Now, I was seeing some speculation that the developer might just be falling on the sword here.
They would not have done that. Like, no.
They're lying about it being their fault so as to save Fextra Life from getting hate. The argument that I've seen being
ridiculous.
If it was GGG's fault and there was a miscommunication, why didn't any of the other outlets break embargo? Like, why was it only Fextra Life who broke embargo?
Who knows?
They all got the same embargo timing, right? And that sounds simple, right? But surprise, things are rarely as simple as they sound. As someone who has done quite a few reviews and previews in the past that come with embargoes, I can tell you the process looks different all the time, and it can often be quite a bit messy. So sometimes you get all of the info, the embargo timing, basic details on the game, the installation and review guides, all of it comes nicely in a package in a pre-made PDF. Everyone gets the same PDF with all the same info. Easy, right? Like, no confusion to be had. Sometimes that happens. Other times, it's just a literal email from some contact at the company or in relation to the company that says, hey, here is the game code. Embargo lifts at such and such a time on such and such a day. Let us know if you have any questions. And then that's it. It's literally just an email that somebody sent with a couple of lines of info. And many times this will be like a back and forth conversation with them, giving you the code and then saying embargo comes later and then sending the embargo. And this process can and does vary wildly from game to game, from review and preview to review and preview.
And the same thing, and also like another component for this is the telephone component, where a lot of times some of these things will be done through third parties, and then you have communications because the third party could misunderstand what the publisher is telling them, or they could misinterpret what that is and then send the wrong thing to the reviewer.
Have to keep in mind that a lot of times this process is handled by a third party. So it's not even a media contact or someone who actually works at GGG who is handing out this information. Many times developers will hire agencies to do all of the back and forth.
A great example of this going wrong was Black Myth Wukong. Do you remember when people were getting like things that were saying like don't talk about certain social issues while you're playing the game? That was because it probably came directly from the publisher. because those were the rules that China has set, because China has certain speech regulations that they ask people to follow when certain games are being reviewed, because they're assuming it's going to a Chinese audience.
Forth communication for pre-launch reviews. The point is, it is very possible that yes, somebody actually made a mistake when sharing the review info with Fextralife. And this isn't me trying to build a case to defend them. I'm just letting people know this stuff can often be like way more casual and messy than you would assume. It is absolutely possible that somebody just screwed up. They gave them the wrong day. They accidentally typed.
Mistakes happen, guys. Like, big time mistakes happen all the time. Really. People fumble in the Super Bowl. Big mistake.
The wrong time zone. They didn't even include a time zone. Mistakes like this happen somewhat frequently. In fact, I can tell you, I have been sent wrong embargo information on numerous occasions, and I'm not talking like just once or twice. It's happened several times over this past year alone. Now, fortunately, those were all corrected prior to me posting, either because I decided to double check to make sure that the information was accurate, or because they send a follow-up email that says, hey, we made a mistake. The embargo is actually at this specific time and day instead. Now, of course, I don't know exactly what happened in this particular situation. We're all just guessing, but I do believe Grinding Gear Games. Like, I don't think they're lying about this being their fault.
It's ridiculous to say that they're lying just to save the ass of some shitty fucking reviewer. Like, it's such a stupid thing. Like, the only people that think that are on Reddit. Like, I guarantee you there's somebody on a PoE subreddit. A PoE subreddit, in my opinion, I think GGG gives them way too long of a fucking leash. Like, some of the crazy shit that I see on there, it's like if the league, if the servers go down on the league for more than 2 hours, you can guarantee that there will be a drama that's completely unrelated to it. Every time that a league goes out and there are no server crashes and everything goes out without a problem, there's never any drama. The only reason why PoE leagues have drama is because people can't play the game and they're stuck in queue.
I've been a part of this process so much over the years that I can tell you mistakes are not uncommon. And frankly, I think it's ridiculous to think that the devs would be lying here. If there was no miscommunication, GGG could have just not mentioned the embargo break.
They could have just not said it. Exactly.
They took the video down. They could have just ignored it, but they made a whole big post about it, I think because it was their fault. There's really no sense in them lying to cover Fextralife's butt. When somebody breaks embargo purposefully, you know what happens? You get blacklisted and you don't get codes from that company ever again. The devs are not coming out lying to cover up somebody else's screw up. Like,
thank you. Exactly.
Have never seen this happen. Maybe this is the first time, right? But anyways, that out of the way, this isn't even the biggest issue that people have right now.
Exactly, this is, by the way, Fextralife wasn't wrong in this circumstance, but this video is not even halfway over. Here we go.
This isn't the main reason people are upset, that because Fextralife broke the embargo, right?
All right?
The main reason that a lot of people are really upset right now is just the fact that pre-launch review codes are even happening. Many were under the impression that this wasn't going to be the case for Path of Exile 2, and that we would all be playing the early access version of the game for the first time together on December. December 6th. So what's happening? Well, GGG addressed this as well in their tweet by saying, we've seen some speculation that some people might already have access to the early access version of Path of Exile 2. To clarify, some traditional games media have been given access to a review version of the game. Part of the stipulation that media were given is that this is for review purposes only. They may share their opinions of the game, but are not allowed to produce guide-style content from this version.
That's important. Keep that part in mind.
That would spoil the discovery of the game or post unedited playthroughs. They are not playing on the same servers as the early access version, so none of the progress will be kept. In addition, all of the content they produce is embargoed until the early access on December 6th, so no content is supposed to be posted until then. That's then when they said, sorry, we had a miscommunication with Fextralife. It's not their fault, it's ours. And then they wrap up by saying, on release day, we want players to be able to make a more informed choice about if they would like to buy a key. We believe that allowing traditional games media access should be able to accomplish this without spoiling the game.
And it is, and it does, and it happens all the time. Elden Ring did the same thing. Vadi Vidya got an early copy of Elden Ring. A lot of people got early copies of Elden Ring. Do you know who else got an early copy of Elden Ring? Ya boy. I did. Did I play it? Absolutely not. But I did get I technically got an early copy because of a Red Bull event that I participated in. That's how I was able to play the game early. And it was theoretically like the version that I got was the full game.
So there you have it. They have sent out review codes
they asked me not to.
Traditional games media. This was done with the caveat that they couldn't post any guides or full walkthroughs. Yeah. It was on entirely separate servers, so no progress will carry over. And the embargo is set to lift on December 6th when the game officially launches into early access. Now, besides the fact that now that we know the embargo is for December 6th, that means whatever miscommunication may have happened with Fextra Life was hilariously massive. Like, they gave an embargo timing that was 6 days wrong. Excuse me? I don't know how that happens, but like I said, it's a sloppy process.
Who knows?
There is miscommunication. People are misinformed. Sometimes the people relaying the information, the in-betweens, the agencies that are working with the developer and publisher and sharing the information and dealing with all the reviewers.
I feel like maybe I should stop pausing so much because he literally is saying the exact same thing that I said.
Out codes and all that. Sometimes somebody just doesn't know everything, or they get something wrong, or they type something wrong. Like, that does happen. But anyways, 100%. That aside, people are just upset at the fact that anybody is playing the game prior to its full release. Why? Well, there's a few very particular reasons. For starters, people just have an issue with Fextra Life in general, them getting access, because mainly, besides people who just don't like Fextra Life for a variety of reasons, many of which I think are justified. I don't have a
Well, here's the thing. Remember what I told you guys about how you build 100 bridges and you suck one dick? You're not a bridge builder, you're a dick sucker. The problem with Extra Life is they suck 100 dicks and they only build one bridge. That's the reality. And so a lot of people don't like them.
Grudge against the guy or the channel, but I understand why some people don't like him for the embedded Twitch view boosting that he does, for some of they're getting their guide information.
Well, that got nerfed, so you can't do that anymore.
The quality of their guides, whatever. He's not what many consider traditional games media, because they do run a wiki. Whatever you think of that wiki's quality, they do have a wiki with guides and information, and it even appears like they may have already started populating their wiki with info that was acquired during the review, which I wouldn't be...
It did not appear that way. The reason why it appeared that way is because it appeared on their website, because they put it there. They were creating guides and walkthroughs for the game, and PoE explicitly said the review copy was not for that purpose. They broke the embargo regardless of the video upload. You just read what they said.
Be surprised if they have at least got that process going.
Videos are okay, the wiki suck.
The game, I think their videos are fine. They're going to have a wiki on PoE 2. They do have a wiki on PoE 2. They're at least going to start pre-filling out that information, even if it's embargoed for a week after launch, although it looks like some of that went live and then they took it down.
To be fair, I want to make one thing extremely clear about this. We're at 12:09. The stipulation, let's read this. They are not allowed to produce. Produce is not publish, it is create. So in the process of creating something and putting it on the internet, there are usually 2 or 3 steps. There's production, editing, and publishing. So just because they didn't take the first step doesn't mean that, by definition, they violated it by producing it in the first step. That's just, again, that's what words are. Now, I kind of disagree with this point. If you produce something, you make it. There is no way that you can define production as not making something. You just read what the dictionary definition of it is. It's plain English.
After launch, although it looks like some of that went live and then they took it down. But anyways, the point is, someone like Fextra Life isn't really just...
Somebody in the chat does actually bring up a really good point, that it could have been worded differently on the legal document and it could have been specified differently. So that's a good point, and we don't know the answer to that.
traditional games media because they have a wiki and they do post guides, and this makes it counter to GGG's stated philosophy of not wanting to spoil the discovery phase of the game prior to launch, or just not wanting to spoil it in general. If a review outlet like IGN or YouTubers, someone like SkillUp, if they get a review, we know it's going to be like a focused on the base game and sort of a one-off thing. Like, there is little to no risk of outlets like that, of people like that, of channels like that, spoiling the experience and ruining the discovery of the game, especially for the late game and end game content. Like, it's not going to happen. But that brings us to the other thing that's causing complaints here. It's that players don't want the game solved prior to release. And this is a valid concern. I totally understand it. It's one that was widely expressed during the launch of Diablo 4, because with that game, myself and many others did have access to D4 prior to it coming out. And specifically, the hardcore sweats of the crowd, the super blasters, they basically had the whole game figured out before it launched, with leveling and end game class build guides, with boss fighting tactics, with farming routes, so on and so on. I think especially for a genre like ARPGs, there's a lot of people who want to feel like they are part of that discovery phase all together as a community at the same time. And that
I think that's very true. And it's one of the, I feel like it's kind of like a lost lore type situation where a lot of people miss the days where you played a video game and everybody was starting off on the same foot when it came out, and people discover things collectively together. Whereas now it's like, as soon as a game gets released, you have people that are already like creating this deluge of content that they've done through like betas or some sort of like internal copy. And so like, you already know how to beat the game, like the moment the game gets released. And like you saw this happen, but like, I feel like it's not really a big issue. I actually don't think it's a big problem, because you can solve, like, it's a problem that you can solve yourself. The only time where it's actually a big issue is when either the game is designed around having to use certain types of builds, or it's a multiplayer game and metas are defined around it. Those are the 2 points where it's actually a problem. The whole point of an ARPG, in my opinion, is figuring out the game and making cool builds. Well, I think that also, I think that you can play it in a number of different ways.
People who aren't YouTubers or aren't guide makers also have a chance to come up with some of those great builds. Like, there's people who have find value in that. So that's something that gets taken away when people have access to the game 2 to 3 weeks prior to launch, and especially...
I would argue that it doesn't. I would argue that you take it away from yourself when you choose to play and you choose to look at guides. Like, I played Dragon's Dogma 1, and the only time that I looked at a guide was I couldn't figure out how to summon the Griffin. I thought it was like a goblin corpse you need. I didn't know that. So, other than that, I didn't play it with any guides at all, and I had a phenomenal, tremendous time. And I did the same thing with Metaphor as well. The first time that I looked something up is I didn't know, like, if it was a bug, why a certain boss wasn't taking damage from stuff. So yeah, that's the way I look up guides to understand how mechanics work. I think that the more punishing a game is, the more the game will encourage players to do pre-research. And that's why I think that it's really important for games to not be so punishing that they cause players to take the fun out of the game in order to avoid being punished by it.
People who are the type that are going to be figuring all this stuff out. So yeah, the concern is more so that Fextra Life running a wiki and posting guides, he isn't quite the same as, again, like an IGN or a YouTube reviewer like SkillUp who gets a review code, because they're not going to be posting endgame build guides, right? And meta builds. Now, I will say, though, at the same time...
To be fair, I bet a lot of guys in Maxroll got PoE access. I don't know that, but I would assume that they probably did get early access to PoE too, and they probably just didn't use it that way. No?
People are expressing this...
Well, maybe they didn't. I don't know. Some of them probably. Yeah, like, I would assume that they did.
Concern. I really don't think it's an actual issue, because Fextra Life in particular, in my eyes, is way closer to traditional games media than he is to the hardcore ARPG enthusiast. And what I mean specifically is I am under zero impression that any guides Fextra Life comes up with are going to be anywhere remotely close to the best, to meta, to actually being the ideal thing and actually being the solution to whatever problem is in the game, right?
Well, he's not really a guide innovator. Like, he's probably not making guides. He'll probably maybe take a guide that somebody else is doing and then make a video on how to do it better, or at least like create his own video about it, but he's probably not innovating his own content.
Not the same as the ARPG blasters out there, people like Rex and DM and Rob, any of the crew on Maxroll and Icy Veins, for example. Those players getting early access does mean the game would be solved prior to launch. And as far as I'm aware, GGG hasn't given pre-launch codes to that portion of the community. So even though Fextra Life does run a wiki and post guides, I really don't think there's legitimate concern of them solving the game. They could certainly still spoil stuff, though, and if they're already filling up their wiki, that may end up happening depending on when that wiki embargo is. Well, Fextra Life and embargo timings, that's kind of a touchy subject.
And that's very annoying. If PoE 2 comes out and Extra Life, like, they post a bunch of guides and walkthroughs of the game, I think that collectively the PoE community is going to hate them forever. I think it's going to be like one of those, like, oh, does everybody remember when they did this one stupid thing? And everybody is going to keep bringing this up forever. And I think, by the way, deserved.
Of this video, right? But truthfully, yeah, like all of
because
that.
Because this is going to be like me being biased, maybe, because like I have friends that are part of it. I think Maxroll is the best resource. I've been saying this since Lost Ark. It's the best gaming resource guide website. It's my opinion.
Actual solving of the game, of finding the best builds, that is still gonna happen at launch and post-launch when all of the blasters and all of the hardcore members of the ARPG community are finally playing the game. Now, with that said, though, if Grinding Gear Games truly wanted to fully avoid any spoilers, any solving of, or any ruining of Path of Exile 2's discovery phase and the fresh launch experience, they shouldn't have sent out pre-release codes to anyone, especially people who run wikis. But again, I'm really not trying to single Fextra Life out. Everyone else is doing that as is. And like I said, I don't have a personal grudge against him. I do think some of the stuff that's been associated with...
I feel like it's a very simple dichotomy. You can review the game. You can't post spoilers for the game. It's so simple. It like... And the thing is, like, with so many people, they do it all the time. Like, it's not like this is some sort of, like, it's not like it's the fucking Valdo's puzzle box here, okay? Like, we have 30 years of people doing this. It's not a secret at all.
Extra Life is a little shady, right? Like the embedding to boost views and whatever. How accurate someone's wiki isn't like whatever. You can make a bad wiki if you want, but yeah, the view boosting was pretty shitty. So I understand why people have a really sour taste in their mouth when it comes to that channel. And that
I think that the reason why people don't like Extra Life, especially like individual users, is they feel like the quality of the wikis are bad and that they prioritize search engine optimization over making sure that there's comprehensive, like, authentic quality for, like, let's say their Dark Souls or Baldur's Gate 3 wikis. I've personally had both experiences, and I personally could say, to be totally honest, the majority of the information that I've found on Extra Life wikis has been accurate. There's been a few inaccuracies, for sure. And I think the PoE community wiki is way better than them, but I don't think that they're wrong about everything.
In particular, but my main point being is they just got themselves in a really tricky situation here. They shouldn't have sent out pre-release codes to anyone, whether it's traditional games media or otherwise, if they wanted a truly pure experience as they're stating they are. I get the argument that they're making.
I think that it's not even a question which one is more important. Is it more important for people to get a true experience, or is it more important for people to get a educated decision on what they're going to spend their money on? It's not even close. Which one is more consumer friendly? Obviously the reviews are more consumer friendly. Like, and everybody knows that. That's why everybody's been doing it for 30 years.
Is that they wanted to inform consumers, but consumers can be
It's free. It's not free. It's not. The game will be free on release, but PoE 2 on early access is $30 to access it. You have to pay $30. Now you get $30 in microtransaction credits on the store, so it's like it's not exactly that, but you do need to, one way or another, give them $30.
It doesn't have to be on the day that it releases, especially since it's an early access release. And I say this as someone who does pre-launch reviews and previews and videos all the time, right? So like I have a bias to suggest that these companies are giving out pre-release codes because I can post videos early and those videos can get views. Even if that all stopped happening, I'd adjust, I'd be fine. There's still a lot of videos that I can make. I don't only do reviews after all. This isn't a review.
This is a drama video. I need
I'm
more
not
of
someone
these
who
to
would be
react
figuring
to.
out the best builds anyways. There's no fear of that. I'm not making guides. I'm really probably not solving anything about an ARPG. But regardless, GGG did put themselves in kind of an awkward situation with this one. They professed
I personally don't think they put themselves in an awkward situation at all. And I don't think Force is doing this, but I hate the idea that people are blaming them for this problem. This is something that almost every single game reviewer does, and every single company does. And if people can't figure out the difference, that's their problem, and to blame it on GGG is fucking ridiculous. They had stipulations, the stipulations were not met, and because of that, everybody's experience was worse. Let's look at who actually made the mistakes, rather than blaming it on people who tried to act in good faith. That's what I think. It's F Extra Life is completely in the wrong. GGG did nothing wrong other than apparently a miscommunication.
Wanting to ruin the game for their hardcore audience, and I believe what they say, but at the same time they're wanting to market as much as possible, giving access to publications with a wider reach outside of the most hardcore ARPG fans. And as a result, well, we've ended up in this rather messy circumstance. Now, is this going to ruin my personal experience with the game? No, not at all. I am not bothered that IGN, Fextra Life, or whoever else got access will be posting their reviews on launch day. And as mentioned, none of them are actually going to have the best builds or really spoil too much of the game, even if they do post guides or whatever, which apparently they're not going to be allowed to until sometime after release. I will wrap up by saying, though, that the most significant thing that I took out of this whole situation is that the review, however embargo breaking it was overwhelmingly positive. Like, they were singing glowing praise for this game.
At the end of the day, like, who gives a fuck? This game's going to be crazy.
Like, I was already excited for PoE 2. I am now hyped. This is looking fantastic. I cannot wait to play. I can't wait to see all the discovery that happens for people from December 6th onwards. But anyways, that is it for this video.
Builds.
Let me know what you think about this, just this whole situation, this topic in general. I know it's a pretty heated one. I know there's a lot of strong feelings on the side of people not wanting the game spoiled. Like, whatever personal grudge people have against Fextra Life aside. Yeah, I mean, I totally get it, especially with a game like this. I understand. I do understand the complaints. But that is it for me for today. Thank you as always for watching. Hope you enjoyed the vid. I'll see you all next time.
I think to paint this as anything other than F Extra Life completely violating the trust that GGG put in them and making a mistake and actively working against what they had wanted to do with the game, I think it's unfair. F Extra Life are the ones that made the mistake. They're the ones that did it wrong, and nobody else is responsible for that other than them. Review copies serve for the best interest of the customer, and they should be continued to give out to people who are in the community, who do things ethically, and who are proven to be trustworthy and good resources for information. So I think that Force should keep getting review copies. I think Skill Up should keep getting review copies. Angry Joe, if I want one, I think I should get one. I don't ask for them, though, because I like to have my first experience on camera, which, for better or for worse. But either way, that's my viewpoint. And I think that review copies are, again, they serve to be a educator in the space to show people what's actually going on. And I think that's a good thing. So that's the way I see it. Looking towards your partnership on PoE 2 launch, bro. Yeah, I don't listen to the reviews either way. That's totally fine. If you don't want to listen to the reviews, that's okay. I can't decide what class to play. I think that why don't you just wait? Like, I mean, unless you're going to play on the moment of release, why don't you just wait until, people are playing for a couple of hours and then make your decision based off of that? Because, like, if you see something that, like, looks fun to play, like, that's what I do sometimes. If, like, I don't play the PoE League on day 1, I'll wait for day 2 or day 3, and then I'll pull up Ziz, I'll pull up Steel Mage, I'll pull up Cute Dog or somebody, and I'll watch them. I'll be like, yeah, this looks really cool. I want to play this, right? But in my opinion, like, I'm going to just go, Mathel, right? Mathel does really good builds, I think, right? GGG released all skill nodes for all ascendancies. Yeah, well, here's another disappointing thing about that, is that I heard that GGG released that because it unfortunately got leaked. Is that true? I don't know about that. Can't go wrong with minions for start. I did with Necromancer one time. Yeah, no. It's hard to say. I'm not sure. Yeah, well, either way, don't show us. I'll probably look at it off stream. But I'll probably spoil myself a little bit for it. But either way, that's kind of what my take on it is. And I think that, again, it's 100% on F Extra Life. And it is 100% not on, what do you call it? Not on GGG. And they were acting completely in good faith in all ways. So, yeah.